mean, art was always in my life, no matter what I was doing, sports in high school and college. I remember when I was a senior, they gave me an MVP for football, and I gave the head coach a 3x4 oil pastel of Jimi Hendrix. And they were like, they didn't know what to think of it. It was a cool piece, but yeah, I was always leaning towards art. And then even in college, when I went to Maryland for lacrosse, I would be skipping practice, calling in sick so that I could like paint murals in the lacrosse houses. And after 2 years in Maryland, I was just not really happy there, and I started painting more often, and I knew I wanted to make a change there. So I ended up, I was in a summer course, and they started reading the syllabus at the beginning of the class, and I was just like, nope, I can't do this. And I walked out of the classroom and called the coach, and took my beat up truck and my dog and drove to LA. When I got to LA, I went to SMC and then got a small scholarship to LMU to help out the lacrosse program, and moved into this house on the beach where I had the garage as my first art studio. At the same time, I also realized that there was only, 4 or 5 people on the sidelines at the lacrosse games, as opposed to a full stadium in Maryland. So I talked to the team and they made me the event coordinator. And I lived with a couple sorority girls, so I got into the chapter meetings to promote some events. And one of the biggest ones we had was at the Avalon in Hollywood when I was a junior in college. This is a year after Maryland. And we had Steve Aoki headline it. And I did a number of pieces and staged the Avalon Club before the event. And I remember I was so broke at the time, and during the event, I went to the security and talked to the guy in front of the green room where Steve Aoki was. And I was like, dude, I got no money, but I did this painting of Steve. Like, I just want to give it to him. And he was like, well, what do you got on you? And I literally had 20 bucks on me, and I gave it to him. And he's like, well, give me your number. I'll text you when I can get you in. And I was like, it's bullshit. It's not going to happen. Sure enough, the dude texted me in like 20 minutes. So my buddy has to climb up on the balcony at the Avalon and hand down this like 4x5 foot painting of Steve Aoki, and I'm running through this college rave. It was like LMU, USC, UCLA. And I get back there and he lets me in, and I put the painting on this like booth, and Steve Aoki comes over. He's like thrilled on the painting, does this photo with me. Next thing I know, I'm on stage with a bottle like next to Steve DJing, and it was a really cool experience. And in that moment, I also realized that this art that I was creating in this garage could actually turn into something bigger. I had a rose painting up on the wall in Boulder Valderrama, if I'm getting his name correctly. Boulder Valderrama bought that painting at their opening night, so they asked me to do a more permanent piece. And so I painted that rose directly on the wall, and that was technically my first mural. As I was painting it, the owner of Rose Boulevard lived across the street and was having a party, saw me through the window painting it. I went to the party. He had me do my first mural on Main Street in Venice, and that's when it really became these exterior murals that we started. Soon after that, the Whaler in Venice Beach, the iconic spot, asked me to do a mural of Jim Morrison on the sun deck, which Jim Morrison also went to my high school, so I was really honored to do that. And then it really just took off after that. So there's a number of projects that I guess I could deem my favorite, but the one that really stands out to me, because it was more of a moment and a milestone in my career, is when I won the artist in residency at the Olive in downtown LA. I was put up there and paid to live there for 8 months. And while I was there, I flew in artists from other countries and collaborated with a number of friends to do murals throughout the building. I think all in all, we did 9 or 10 murals. Super fun experience. Also introduced me to the downtown LA scene, which I ended up staying for a while before I left to New York. The best part of that entire project is I had to go do an interview on air at KCRW, and they were located on SMC College, and I didn't know that. So I was driving over to KCRW's HQ to this interview, and I'm walking on SMC campus where, 5 years prior to that, I was getting credits to get into a new college after I dipped out of Maryland and left the lacrosse, life, and was pursuing art. So it was this whole full circle moment. where it was one of those things with the goals that we spoke about. Like I couldn't have seen that coming, and to be walking on campus to do an interview on air about this artist in residency that I just won was pretty incredible. Being paid to live somewhere as an artist and being on the radio, on air, on an interview, and working with the artists that I was working with on those murals at that building really opened my eyes and set this realization that I was actually a full-blown professional artist. It didn't even register until like halfway through that, and it was like this moment of like, oh my God, I'm like doing this. And it was also like, oh my God, I can't go back now. So we're fully invested. So I had a show in LA about 2 years ago, and during that show I met some people that worked for Motor Trend. They reached out about Car Week up in Carmel, and they had me get teamed up with Alfa Romeo. And the day I showed up to do the live painting, they actually had stickers made with the Alfa Romeo logo and my pattern incorporated. It was really cool. It was a very high-end event too, which, you know, I wasn't so used to after doing, you know, murals and whatever else in LA. So it was a nice introduction into that world. And I also, because my father was in the military, we lived in Monterey for years, so I got to go back and visit where I lived when I was younger on that project too. That also, the Alfa Romeo gig turned into me going and doing a live piece at the 70th anniversary for Motor Trend in El Segundo. And that piece, I actually took an 8x8 canvas and installed this frame that held 200 small canvases on it. So during the event, I was doing this live painting. It said Motor Trend throughout it with my pattern, and had all these iconic pieces on each frame that represented Motor Trend. And they went in to do the award ceremony, and they came out, and the whole canvas was empty, and everyone was wondering where the live painting was. And the guy on the speaker said, check your gift bags on the way out. So what we did is, when they were inside at the award ceremony, we were taking all the pieces down separately, and I was signing and numbering them. We put them in the gift bag. So everybody at that event got to walk home with a piece of the live painting. Yeah, so Wink Wine was the first label that we did, was based off of my mural in Pacific and Brooks. And that turned into actually 2 more label designs, and then they had me come do a mural in their HQ, which was super fun. Another alcohol company we worked with was Coronado Brewing Company in my hometown, which I did a number of pieces, and we had 4 different IPAs created with my art on the back of the cans. And anything that I get to do back here in my hometown on that level is so much fun. It was great. Like, I'm not here all the time. I'm out and about in other places, but my friends and family were all hitting me up when they go to the store and see my art on the Coronado Brewing Company cans. Those are a very fun project. So I was really grateful for LA. I love that city. The connections I made there, the friends that I have there. It really opened up and put me on the map as an artist, period. That wouldn't have happened necessarily unless I got to LA and moved to Venice. So super grateful for it. And we organically, through a friend, ended up getting asked to have a show in New York in Chelsea. And I found myself, I started getting murals in New York and Bushwick and in the city of Manhattan, and I really loved the energy there. I felt very inspired there and think I needed that change of pace. And we went out for, I think it was 3 months. I was out in Williamsburg, and I was asked to do a mural on Wythe and 8th right in the water. I did a 4.5, 5-story mural there leading up to the show, and then the gallery gave me a studio also in Bushwick right off the L. and I created most of the artwork there for the show. So I went and was on site in New York to create those. And you know, the show, I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't had a show in New York yet. But opening night, we had 300 plus people there. We sold a bunch of the artwork. It felt, for me, like the art was taken more seriously. LA, the shows I had, some of them, you know, more successful than others, but it always felt like more of an event. It didn't feel like there was a serious note around it. And I mean, you know, I'm an artist, and I guess I'm, you know, living the dream, but I take all the artwork that I create is very personal to me, and I'm still, you know, trying to make a living. So seeing that and experiencing that in New York definitely added to the already pool that was there. So, you know, after COVID year, I was tired of waiting and decided to make the move and got out there, and it's been great. I'm very easily inspired, and honestly, it's hard for me to go 3 days without painting, period. But my main inspiration has always been connecting with people. And that has been the main thing that's made my career possible, as well as the connections I have with people and have held and kept. I'm truly blessed with so many amazing people in my life, but you know, it's not about just the artwork and what I'm creating, but it's the people that I'm working with and the people that I'm creating the art for. It's really hard for me to create something for somebody that I don't necessarily know anything about or haven't met. I always make it a priority. Even when they've, you know, worked out logistics with my manager and everything, I gotta at least get on a phone call, grab a coffee or something with them and create some kind of personal connection. That makes the artwork for me so much, you know, better, and I work harder on it because I care about this person that's going to receive the piece, and they're going to be looking at it hopefully the rest of their life.